Hello, my name's Francis and welcome to MyBoxingCoach.com. Quite an interesting video for you today, I think. I've titled it 3 Ways to Watch a Fight. And 2 of these ways, I think, hopefully will give you some real insights into how you analyse a boxer and how you can properly judge a fight in order to say, I scored that fight. So that's coming up first. Download your book if you're on a boxing journey. I've written a book called The Beginner Boxer Toolkit, and in there you get all kinds of insights, 64 pages, how to build the right mindset, building a solid training regime, the 10 top skills, building speed and power, all kinds of stuff in there. Download yourself a copy of that. There's a link below and there will be a link at the end of our video. Okay, so 3 ways to watch a fight. Those 3 ways are as a fan, as a student, or like me, a boxing coach, a trainer, and finally as a judge. So I'm just going to quickly whistle you through them. So first off, as a fan, I often watch fights as a fan, and it's all about enjoying it. It's all about enjoying the spectacle, enjoying these top operators really doing what they're trained to do, relaxing, even enjoying some of the sort of slightly odd commentary that we often get nowadays. And when people say, did you watch the fight to me? And I'll say, yeah. And they say, well, who do you think won? If I haven't scored that fight, if I haven't sat there and properly scored it, I say, oh, I don't really know. My perception was that boxer A won it. It's you know, if it's a fairly clear victory then. But when fights are close, I never score them as I'm watching it as a fan, because I think both boxers deserve more. If I'm going to score it and properly analyse it and say, this is who I think won, I need to put a lot of concentration into that. So that's as a fan. Just enjoy it. Enjoy the lights, enjoy the crowd noise, enjoy what's going on, listening into the corners, the whole spectacle of a big fight. Always good fun. So then you've got watching a fight as a student. So this is about trying to learn from watching a boxing fight. And I use this all the time as a coach. So I'll watching my boxers in sparring, or even when they fight, I'll often watch the other opponent and I'll use this method that I'm going to talk you through. So in order to understand what's going on in a boxing fight, I like to think of looking at a boxer as having 4 broad skills buckets, technical skills buckets. They are footwork, defences, punches, and body movement. And when you look at an individual boxer, if you use those 4 categories, you're able to bring out some insights into what's going on. So let's think about footwork. So the obvious ones, are they southpaw or orthodox? Do they switch stance? Can they box comfortably out of both stances? Are their feet bladed, so more side on, or are they slightly more square? That often, for me, tells me whether if the boxer's side on, they tend to be more mobile, so they're a mobile-based boxer. If their stance is slightly squarer, then they tend to be power-based. Are they on the balls of their feet, or are they quite flat-footed? Again, that's about mobility versus power. Are they straight line fighters? Do they work primarily on a straight line, or do they use lots of lateral movement, side steps and opening up different angles? Do they use the pivots at long range or at close range? All of these little things, they will tell you a bit about what's going on with that boxer. Now, for each of these buckets, it's always important then to say, are there any faults? You're not likely to see big faults at world championship fights. But sometimes if you're watching, say, a video of yourself, often when boxers move out, their feet will come together. If I see that my boxer's boxing someone and I see that their opponent does that, I will say things like, make sure as they back away, you launch an attack fierce and fast. Because if their feet are together, they're going to be in a very difficult position to defend any attack. So with all of these buckets, think about faults as well that you can spot. So the second bucket then is defences. So this is really about arm position, arm guards. Are they in full guard? Are they in half guard? Some people call that the Philly shell, not a term I particularly like, to be honest. Are their hands down like a lot at long range? Do they use lots of blocks? Are they firing from after they've blocked? Are they firing out from that? So that provides them the basis of being a counterpuncher. Spot when if an opponent has a low lead hand when they're moving in, then that's a big vulnerability. You know, most top fighters you see, when they move close, their hands come up here for very good reason. So defence is what is their arm position, and are there any gaps and any holes there that you can spot. Third skills bucket is punches. Are they predominantly straight punches, or do they prefer using long range straight shots? Or are they a hook based fighter? They prefer to be up close and letting the hooks go. Do they go for, are they a volume puncher, or are they a precision puncher? There's my dog kicking off. Are they a volume puncher, or are they a single puncher? They fire off single shots. Well, these are all little things that tell you, particularly for beginner boxers, when they're throwing punches, are their hands coming back down here? So are there gaps? You know, are there opportunities to take advantage of? And finally, body movement. Slips, ducks, rolls, laybacks. Are they using those as a way of defense, or are they using those to give themselves additional leverage for punch power? So hookers will often use them. It provides really good defense, but it also generates more power. Do they do the layback at long range so that they can counter punch? You know, all of these little things, and particularly when boxers are slipping, are they keeping a good guard? So if there's things like this, again, these are faults that you can take advantage of. So then you think, oh, you've got your 4 skills buckets. How are they being combined? What is happening? How are the punches being combined with the foot movement, the footwork? How are defences being combined with punches? And then you start overlapping, and then you can begin to understand the ring generalship of that boxer. Then, are they a pressure fighter? Do they like to let the opponent come forward? Or, you know, how do they control the ring? You read between the lines of what's going on. It takes practice, but if you start from those 4 simple skills buckets, you're in a really good position and to really begin to understand what's going on in a boxing fight. So there's watching it as a student, or as I would watch it often as a coach. And then we come to the final one, watching it as a judge, so scoring the fight. Rule number 1, switch off the sound on the television. What you've got to remember now is, especially with pay-per-view, the commentators are, they're salespeople. So they will not tell you that a fight is uninteresting. Take the Klitschko-Tyson Fury fight. I've got nothing against Tyson. I've actually done a video about Tyson Fury. I really rate him as a fantastic fighter. But no one's going to convince me that that was a great fight between him and Klitschko. It was appalling, as far as I was concerned. And what the guys on commentary will say, oh, this is a tactical masterclass. It just wasn't, as far as I could see. It was just a really uninteresting fight. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, the commentators would say, if the fight was going to stink the place out, they'd just say it doesn't happen anymore. So it can have a really bad influence on bias and understanding of what's going on. So yeah, you're watching the fight, you're not watching it as a fan, you're not watching it to learn, you're watching it to score. So switch off the sound, be 100% focused. And then, so I'm using the principles of AIBA judging. So I put this AIBA, Amateur International Boxing Association, but these things are broadly comparable across all of the governing bodies. They may differ slightly. So the criteria we use: number of quality blows landing on target, domination of the bout through technical or tactical superiority, and competitiveness. It varies, you know. Effective aggression is another one that's big in boxing now. But it's got to be effective. There's no use just because someone's going forward, if they're getting the face pinged, then they're not winning the fight. It'll always come back to the number of quality blows landed, and that can be on the front foot or the back foot. And this is where people get really emotional and they hate Floyd Mayweather, or they think that Pacquiao was this, or Golovkin against Canelo. Really close fights, I thought, but you get people who just saying this is ridiculous, you know, Canelo won really easy. The fact is, these things are often more complex. There's a lot more going on. And it's all about the 10-point must system. 10-9 is a close round, 10-8 is a clear win, and 10-7 is total dominance. In the pro game, a knockdown, often they just say it leads to a 10-8 round. But what if that knockdown came totally against the run of play, if the guy was getting absolutely hammered? and he just managed to catch the opponent and drop him. Well, I've struggled to understand how they do this when they say it's either 10-10 or it's 9-9. But it surely shouldn't be a 10-8 round just because the guy managed to land one lucky punch and floor the opponent. In the amateurs, knockdowns mean nothing. It's just a score. It's just a scoring point. They don't have any influence. So, yeah, you score it in that way. A great tip that a judge pal of mine said, he watches the space between the boxers so that you don't get too drawn into one boxer or the other. But then you go through that with the sound off, and a really good way to not score lots of rounds, even if they're close, is to break the round down into 3 1-minute sections. So who wins the first section, who wins the second section, who wins the third section. You're more likely to get less likely to get a 10-10 round if you just think, oh, it seemed really close, so scored it at 10-10. The key thing is, if rounds are close, the fight can go either way by pretty big scores. This is where subjectivity comes in. This is where number of quality blows landed versus technical or tactical superiority. It's just worth understanding that. But if you do that, if you sit down and you score the fight in that way, then you can at least say, well, I scored it like this, and here's what I'm based on, and you've got your opinion, and that's not just, I think it shows you're having respect for both fighters, that you take the time to sit and properly score it before you start telling the world and his brother about who you think won. So there you go. I think 3 ways to watch a fight. Always enjoy it as a fan. There's ways of learning from fights, and if you're going to score it, at least do so by helping both boxers and showing respect to both boxers by really concentrating and focusing 100% and marking your scores down. That's it. Hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget, download your book, The Beginner Boxer Toolkit, free, and you'll not regret it, I'm sure. Otherwise, my name's Fran Sands, and I will see you next time.